Hello and welcome back to Let's Build a Ship, Part 3, The Sails. Now we're going to be working on the masts today. We've got to add some platforms because we have to have somewhere to stand when we're going up to rig the sails. These are placed on intervals along the masts, on each mast, each of our 3 masts, and then we're going to add the boom sections to each mast. These are the horizontal beams to which we'll be attaching the sails. And then adding a bit of detail here, planks with metal rings. And then on top, for a bit of colour, a dynamic flag, just popping that in. Doesn't have to be perfect, just a rough bit of colour on the top. And then I'm also adding these iron bolts just to secure each beam. There we go, we've got about 12 or so, 11 or 12 booms on our masts. Also on the front, adding the iron bolts. I actually redid this beam to put it more at an angle, bring it up off the front of the ship. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the rigging. This is used to hold the beam at the front of the ship. Now here's a really good part. I'm using Sniper, the line brush tool, with one point at the top, and I'm using the gunpowder tool at the bottom to create lines of fence posts which will act as the rigging to climb up to the masts. These are attached to the railings on the side of the ship on the deck. This is the rigging up one of the main masts. I believe this is the foremast at the front of the ship, yep. Now this took quite a while, so I'll just speed this up for you. Get all this rigging done. There we go. All of the rigging is done. We'll have places to climb up and put the sails on. So here we go, I'm going to play the building of the sails in real time, just so you can see exactly how I've made it. I'm going to start off by putting a line at the top here, and then bringing out the curve, because we've got a bit of wind in our sails most of the time. So I'm just going to make a rough curve with white snow blocks. This is the whitest block that we've got in the Halcyon texture pack on the VoxelBox. So it best suits the sail texture. Sails can be quite rough. You can leave them quite open and dynamic, because sails, they're not going to be completely symmetrical and they're not going to be completely flat. You're going to have ruffles in the sails at all times when wind is blowing in them. So here you can see me just filling in the middle, bringing it round. This is all in creative mode, so you can do this without any mods at all. I'm just filling in, very rough to start off with, and I'll go back later on to fine-tune the sail and get it looking just how I want it. Obviously there's going to be some nooks and crannies that look a bit awkward on the sail, but I'll go over them, take them out and replace them until we get the sail looking just right. So there we go. And I repeated this process for each of the sails. We've got quite a few. 3 on the foremast, 3 on the main mast, and 2 on the mizzen mast. And here I'm just adding little fasteners to fasten the sails to each boom. Here we are at the bow of the ship, the front, and these are for the jib sails. These are triangular sails at the front of the ship, and I'm using Voxel Sniper line brush again, taking one point at the top of the sail and then using the gunpowder on each block on the bottom of the sail, and then just tidying it up with a few singular blocks. There we go, most of our sail is complete. I'm going to come to the back of the ship just to add a small tucked away sail which could be used in the future, and then adding also bits of detail on the deck of the ship. Fastened down sails, packed away, tucked away, and then also a bit of rigging in between each sail, a bit of rope to tie the masts together, just using fence posts for this. Now we've got our white sails ready to paint. I'm laying down a palette here of shades of yellow. I've got a very dark yellow here, almost a light brown, and I'm using this to highlight the edge of the front sails. Then I'm taking a slightly darker yellow, going in one block and highlighting there, and then finally taking the lightest yellow, just adding a few dabs of that. You don't need to be too heavy on the colour, just to give the illusion a bit of shade, a bit of shadow. And I'll do the same on each of the main masts, just in the corner underneath. Just from a distance it gives a bit more shadow to what the snow block already has. We're almost complete with our sails. I'll just come to the back of the ship, the rudder, and I wanted to change this blue. It didn't look quite right. Adding a modern touch actually, with a red keel and rudder, just to give a highlight on the bottom of the ship. On the side, I wasn't quite happy with the grey tone that the highlight lines had, so I ended up changing them to a shiny white. So there we go, the sails for our ship are complete. We've given them a tint of colour, a bit of shadow. We've made them dynamic and not symmetrical. Given them a flair of dynamism. Next episode we'll be going inside the ship to complete the interior, including the cabins, captain's cabin and the pantry. I'll see you then.